Good morning to you guys. I think the most important thing is we're going to show you the roadways. There is something missing, your lane markers.
As Wizards owner Rob Heineman made an announcement on one of the team's blog sites.
Last month, 51-year-old Scott Roeder told an Associated Press reporter that he had to kill Dr. George Tiller to save unborn babies.
They are non-existent this morning, so when you're heading out today, and many people are still going to have to brave the roads to head to work, give yourself a little extra time and be courteous to your drivers next to you. And of course, there's no cars as I'm telling you this, but when you do come out, you are going to notice that there is very little to designate where you should be as far as on your roadway. Shoulders are gone. When you're taking your ramps, whether you're entering from or exiting off of, you may actually have to go over a small bump of snow. Of course, they try to do their best cleaning those off, but to be careful if you are heading out today. As you can see, a lot of people heading slow. We are just before the Benton curve. The curves are another spot that you're going to want to be careful. Also, overpasses, those are a spot where you're going to find a lot of extra snow this morning as well. And that blowing snow, that's another thing that's going to be hazardous. In some spots where it's really heavy and it blows, it's actually going to cut your visibility. It is for just a short period, but just be aware you may be hitting your brakes. So watch those speeds to start out with this morning. We're going to have more road conditions. We'll keep an eye on it for you. We'll send it back to the studio. Meredith, Hoenes, Fox 4 News in Kansas City.
Experts at both the Army Corps of Engineers and the National Weather Service say they are expecting flooding in the next month. As for its severity, it's a little too early to tell, but there is one weather factor that is keeping the current flooding isolated. Devastation is one word used to describe the flood of '93. Businesses, homes, and roads gone, completely covered with water. Recent flood stages and heavy rains have people concerned it'll happen again. Experts at the National Weather Service say models indicate one factor is keeping it from happening.
Right now, what's going on is there's significant to major flooding in some areas, but it's isolated. It's not widespread.
Watson says for '93 to repeat, rain would have to fall continuously over Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, and Missouri for weeks.
It's still too early to tell if we're going to have a '93 because back then, I think we had at least a month of continuous waves of storms night after night. I mean, we've only had maybe a week of it, or 5 days.
June is kind of the period where we see most of our historic floods on the Missouri River. So we're right in that period when we're watching it with a critical eye.
The Army Corps of Engineers is also watching rainfall and flood levels closely.
One of the important factors, though, is that if you don't drop below flood stage, that next increment, it doesn't take that much rain to keep pushing it higher.
Knieven says current models are forecasting flood stage levels until next week. It seems like a long time, but is far from '93 stats.
93 was so severe. I mean, you had points in the river that were 40 to 50 days above flood stage. I mean, we're like maybe a week or two.
Now, the National Weather Service says that another difference between '93 and now is the Kansas River is not near flood levels. One of the reasons is that widespread versus isolated is helping keep it low. Now, as for the rains, they are expected to take a break this weekend. Those coming dry spells is what's going to help keep these rivers in their flood banks. Meredith Hoenes, Fox 4 News, working for you in Kansas City. If you look on a map, the Ford plant takes up about half of the city limits of the village of Claycomo, and residents here fear what'll happen to their economy if Ford leaves or even shrinks its workforce.
A drink, sandwich, liquor, beer.
Georgie D's is brand new to Claycomo. Owners opened the doors just 4 months ago.
It's been better every day. We get somebody new. Oh, I didn't know you were here.
But with the local union's recent announcement, the business could take a hit.
All over, all over. So there would be our business. I mean, if they couldn't come here, we couldn't make it.
Georgie D's isn't the only business concerned about losing patrons. Mon Pa's Kettle worries it'll have more and more empty booths. The owner says it's the fear of the unknown. She just doesn't know exactly what her bottom line will look like next year. As for Georgie D's, their meatball sub special may be for a limited time.
I don't know how anybody could survive without Ford, you know, that those people, you know, buying and coming in, and they're great people.
One resident told me that if Ford left completely, Claycomo could turn into a ghost town. Meredith Hoenes, Fox 4 News, working for you in Claycomo.
A month after President Bush comes to town, Vice President Dick Cheney will be making a stop in the metro. Also, 2 people are recovering this morning after a serious accident on I-35. All right, parts of Texas. I said Texas. Looks like a winter wonderland this Thanksgiving. In Abilene, residents got anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of snow. And more is expected to fall. Forecasters are predicting as much as 10 inches by the time it's all done. Later this morning, we are expecting a major announcement about the human remains found on Sunday and the possible connection to Sam and Lindsay Porter. NBC Action News reporter Ryan Kath has been covering this story for us in Independence, and he has the details from yesterday and this morning. Ryan. 2 people are recovering this morning after a serious accident on I-35. It happened near Gardner, Kansas yesterday afternoon. 3 people were thrown from a van when it crossed the median and rolled. The driver and a 4-year-old boy were taken to the hospital. The other person thrown is not seriously injured, and 3 others in the van are also okay. No word yet on what caused the van to cross the median and roll. The accident shut down traffic for 5 hours. Well, those seem to be the top 3 laws affecting most Missourians. Let's start with those new vehicle inspection guidelines. Cars that are less than 5 years old will now be exempt from car inspections, which means if you bought a car this past fall during that big car buy-up, that '09 model won't need an inspection until 2014. Once that 5-year period is up, it is required to be inspected every other year. It'll roughly affect 650,000 vehicles, saving $8 million. MoDOT is overseeing 2 new laws. The first is David's Law. Families of drunk driving victims are allowed to request that a sign be placed at the accident site. MoDOT is going to start accepting applications for those in March. The second is a Heroes Way program. Think highway. It's a way to honor military men and women killed in Iraq or Afghanistan. Anyone can request that a stretch of Missouri highway interstate be named after their hero. It does come at a cost, $2,200. And finally, sex offender restrictions did become more stringent. Offenders can no longer come within 500 feet of a park, playground, pool, or daycare center. We're going to tackle new Kansas laws at the bottom of the hour. Meredith Hoenes, Fox 4 News.